Pastor Roy Gerhardt from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. Hey, where are we going to see you at your best? And when would we see you at your worst? I'm not just talking about whether when you get up in the morning your hair's a mess and you're not fit to deal with until you get a couple of cups of coffee in you. No, I'm talking about where is it that your character shows and that we see you at your best, and where and when will we see you at your worst? To help us think about that, I want to focus on Naomi today in the book of Ruth. Naomi is Ruth's mother-in-law, and Naomi is a huge player in Ruth's life. Naomi left home with her husband and her sons to avoid a famine that was impacting their home. So they moved to a foreign country, to the land of Moab. And there, things went really bad. Naomi's husband died, and then her two sons died. And so now, when she returned back home, she declared, I left full and I've returned empty. And Naomi, actually, when she got back home to Bethlehem, when the women greeted her, even using her name, created a pain, a sense of heartache and loss for her. It amplified all of the things that were now missing in her life, because Naomi means pleasant. So every time they spoke her name, they said, hey, pleasant, how are things? Pleasant. And she said, they're not pleasant. In fact, she told the women, don't call me pleasant, call me Mara, which means bitter. So she says, I'm not pleasant, I'm bitter. God has left me with nothing. He's taken away everything from me and afflicted me. And there we see Naomi, perhaps at her worst, where she erupts and melts down with all of the heartache and pain that she has been experiencing. It makes you wonder if she's been holding this inside or if this has been a constant. And I suspect with Naomi that she has not constantly exercised bitterness in her life, but has erupted with this. She's been holding so much in and coming back home to a place where she left so full and so blessed, and coming back to it so empty and so broken and filled with heartache. She erupted, she spilled it out, she released it. And we see her in this lamentation over her life. She sounds faithless, she sounds hopeless, she sounds like she is a person filled with nothing but anger, heartache, and bitterness. Well, we have seen Naomi, though, at a much better place. When she lost her husband and then in turn her sons, she looked at her daughters-in-law and she was concerned for their well-being. She urged them to go back home to their families because she was concerned about them. And when Ruth insisted on going back with her to her home in Bethlehem, they had barely gotten settled in. And Naomi began to be concerned about Ruth. And this is where we see Ruth take on her matchmaking role to try to set Ruth up in a good place so that she would have a home for herself and be established in her own right in a way that she would not be dependent on Naomi, who really couldn't do much else for her. So we see Naomi at her best. When she focuses on others with caring and compassion. We see her at her worst when she is inwardly focused on her own heartache and suffering. When she gets self-consumed, that's when we see her at her worst. And we are all very much like her. We can all relate to this, that when we get focused on ourselves, we can either feel sorry for ourselves, be full of ourselves, arrogant, selfish. All of those kinds of things can come out of us. We can show our worst when we become self-consumed. But when we focus on others, there is a hopefulness that often we bring. Instead of bitterness, we bring compassion and concern. And the very best of who we are shows in those places. You know, the scripture calls on us to put others' needs even ahead of our own. That sounds like a terrible sacrifice until you realize how this balances us out. That instead of being self consumed, selfish people, so self absorbed in our own suffering that we become bitter, we find a balance. We find hope that emerges when we focus on others. We find compassion brings to life something good in us. And that enriches our lives to face even our own struggles. May God bless you today. And as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever He takes you.